And now it's the next verse, verse 27. It is the training in the patience. And of course, there are like the patient, okay. Patient itself has their kind of three, it is like a kind of, you remember, and the three type of the different patients. And it has four qualities. Of course, patience is the antidote for the what? For the anger, yes? But you haven't got any anger, it's no problem. You don't need patience, yes? And I needed really patience. And therefore, and then there's a great friend of the non-conceptualization of the wisdom. And then is the fulfillment, the wish of the sentient beings, maturations, and like this. But anyway, here goes like this. For the Bodhisattvas who desire the enjoyment of the virtue, all harm does alike precious treasures. Therefore, not to feel hostility towards anyone and to practice patience is a Bodhisattva's practice. And this is like a Bodhisattva's way. And we need this path of the patience. And patience is like a path of the enlightenment, antidote for the disturbing emotions, emotion of the anger. And therefore, it's not only the angers. There are many different disturbing emotions. We need to practice patience and desire, attachment, jealousy, proud, arrogant. All of them you need the patience. And also it is like when we say it's like patience, sometimes we have like kind of encouragement, like the opposite of the encouragement. And there are many different things, not only for our enemies or the disturbers. And sometimes when we practice Dharma, sometimes there are many different circumstances. Like for example, electricity and light, and some is electronic gadgets. If it doesn't work, we need to practice patience. And also it's like in the temple now is no problems of cold and dusty and many different things. It's like this sort of, we should to practice patience. When you practice Dharma, when you reflect on Dharma, and sometimes, of course, there are many different like kind of hostilities. It's uncomfortable things. All the time is to have or receive hospitalities, and of course marvelous. But sometimes this can occur and hostilities. But it's like a kind of when we have something such and we receive the hostilities, we should to repayment is hospitalities, and that is the most important. And reward is the hospitalities. If you can to add P and I, it's wonderful between theirs. But if you took out the P and I, it's become horrible. Your eye, face, body is become very not like showing this kind of hostilities. And therefore, it is like when we practice Dharma, sometimes we need patience. 100% like sometimes lack of the shelter, lack of the different conditions, lack of the food, lack of the clothes, and there's many different conditions. According to this kind of conditions, I can't to practice Dharma, I want to give up. Not like this. Or sometimes it says like, I want, the one we practice the 10 positive actions. Some in the, today it's like one mosquito butting in my head. I cannot practice patience. Bang! Then we lost the patience. And immediately to think, of course it's pain, but to think about the sentient beings. Sentient beings also, this mosquito need food. And unfortunately, if it doesn't give to our sickness, why not? And like sometimes the mosquitoes to take full of the blood, and his stomach is full and he fly. After it is no problem. Sometimes when we have big pain things, you took out mosquitoes, mouse is left into our skin, then it's more dangerous, more like kind of poison. Otherwise, if you can to keep a while, when he's like full and he take out properly his mouth, and then it's never received like same as the tick. Do you understand the tick? Tick. This tick is a small insect, very, sometimes Scandinavians are a lot. Once I went to in the island and come back, tick is everywhere. And then we are so much scared, and all the clothes took into something in the washing, and then we went immediately to take a shower, and Alon and the Mags, the after days, the Mags said, oh, look, here's more ticks. Because these animals, one is a bat, and also it's dangerous things, this go direct to secret areas. And once it's a bat, it's even you take out, when you are taking shower, it's no problem, it's stay. When you take it out, it's so complicated. But it's like the mind is very good, and he took the the cutter of the needle, and to take a little piece of your meat took out, and then we put on the pellet, and it's moving, and then we put out. You immediately to take out like this, you cut this head, and then he's warming up into our body, this poisoned, and then sometimes very dangerous. It is like you can be a handicap, and like this small insect, and like this, and very carefully to see. Yes, also exactly the mosquitoes, and if they left their mouth is like they poisoned. And therefore I said, okay, this is nonsense chatting, but sorry. And vraiment désolé, okay? I'm saying vraiment désolé is very sorry. And also this kind of patience is necessary. And also sometimes when we study the like deep teachings, like maybe it's like a philosophical terms of the emptiness, and to say this and that, and then sometimes we say, what it is? I don't understand nothing. And once I was in the university, there's one group, he's teaching about the wisdom chapter, and I was first time enthusiastic, and today I can just study the philosophy. And he's teaching going like explanations, very large and deep. And I'm just hearing something, but his language is completely not the bad language, something, different. And then I have to say, impossible to study something. And it's like sometimes it's a deep teaching, you haven't got based notion, based knowledges. Then it's a deep teaching, it's a great, then we immediately, to give up. Look at our many students. I mean, it's our giving education. I mean, this true law of education is a very deep, that is like overload. For example, myself, I'm telling you things, it's nothing but our here does. First time is hundreds, like more than 100, lesser and lesser. Then later they think, this is Tibetan's education. In European, we don't need that complicated. Then what you need is just easy, relaxed things. And we came to start this kind of deep set. But it's someone studied very well. Once I was in Denmark, and some student went to listen to the holiness teaching and come back and they called me. So we appreciate it because what we studied things today, quoting that, I catch the holiness teaching. What holiness teaching, I can to jump, you know. Sometimes holiness teaching is very deep. So many people, they say, what does it mean? Once I was in Japan this year, I think, this year, and they are teaching about the Bodhisattva avatars. Many there people say, we don't understand what it is. But it's not really deep. And then we are like lose our kind of passion, cannot to practice passion, and then we run away, and also it's not very good. And therefore, it's like a kind of any situation we need patience, absolutely. But here is said for the Bodhisattvas, who someone want to use or want to have the great position of the virtues, then it's like the disturber, or it's like a kind of a harm and the hostilities, or like a kind of the provokers, or like bad doers, or giver of the negative circumstances. For them, it's like a kind of precious treasures. And like I heard some ancient, great, some masters, they keep terrible attendances. It's really amazing, ugly, and very terrible tendencies. Then this Lama or this master every day need to practice patience. And then it's like finally, and says like thanks, and for your how to say, disturb and harm. It is really like harm is very much helpful. It is like precious for me. It's like treasures, because through that I will become enlightenment. I will to receive the great position of the enlightenment happiness. And like this, and also of course Bodhisattvas, someone's disturbed and they just happy, I can to practice patience, is not like this. Harmers, they say, these harmers they never ever receive any negative things in according to the harming actions towards true music. And according to these prayers, is even the harmers maybe is like kind of never get negative things. And according to this bodhicitta, according to these prayers, sometimes whoever sentient beings connected to the Bodhisattvas, it can make the liberations, positive connection or negative connections. And therefore they have because full of the compassions, and then it's a good connection or bad connections, all the time they receive the positive things. Therefore for ourselves, sometimes when we have some is like harmers, it is like we cannot to feel hostilities towards anyone's like disturbers. It is very, very important to practice and patience. That's the most important. And I'm going to the next verse, okay? To sit there and to maintain in this peace. But then is after 8 years, their karma is exhausted, and then they need to come back to apply the Mahayana path. And then this one is like, for them is like inconceivable kind of the death. And this sort of a little bit have like this. They are like, for their benefit, how much their own benefit alone, how much they are strive, as if they like kind of putting out a fire that was the burning on someone's head. For example, if someone's head, if you put a fire, this person cannot just like stay peacefully. Immediately want to take out this fire. Like this, and all the Pachika, Shabaka, Buddhas, they practice very hardly, very hard, surely they practice patience diligently, and their own benefits. Of course, too, it's like to practice the diligent, it's like a kind of the benefit of the all the other sentient beings. And then we need to search, and such a quality, how is it diligent? It is the necessary. And therefore, it's like all the time is to keep in our mind which is important, never to give up, need to continue to practice the diligent. Therefore, and the diligent is the opposite. That is the laziness. And also laziness, there are many different laziness, you remember? But it's like all those laziness, it is our hindrance for the practice Dharma. So all the laziness are the big obstacles in the stop to life, for the force life of the enlightenment. And therefore it is very important to have the diligent. We can to say that to be in the path of the Buddha's path, to take the great airline of the Dharma, and to fast sit well of your diligent, to practice quickly to be enlightenment. And it's like this, and when we practice positive things, and particularly in the Dharma activities, we need to diligent. Generally, is when we do negative things, how much we are diligent persons. And whatever we need to hardships to bear, we are doing to bear that. But some positive things is when we do, is all the time there is obstacles, tiring, encouragement, laziness, and postpones, and it's like, oh, not today, tomorrow, and all the times there are a lot of excusement. Today like this, there are no problem, tomorrow is the until we die. Like this, and it's all the time is like to remind about the diligent, and to practice the vast sense of the diligent, and the source of all the good qualities is come from enlightened things. And then it's like virtues to dedicate to the sentient beings. I'm a little tired. Sorry, I want to stop. So